Right, hello everyone. I think we make it 4:30, which is the start of our live stream. So welcome to those who are watching promptly. As you can imagine, there's probably always going to be people who are a couple of minutes late. So before we even introduce ourselves, we thought we'd do that in a few minutes when maybe a few more people have joined us. We just thought we had a quick icebreaker maybe for us to have a quick look at just for a couple of minutes. So it's on the hottest day or week of the year, we thought we'd take it all the way back to when it was a lot colder at Christmas and name the Christmas films. So there they are. If you know anything, then you can put things in the chat. We want this to try and be as interactive as we can make it, rather than just being someone speaking into a camera. So there'll be going to be opportunities to be involved as we go through. This is just our first one, just maybe for a couple of minutes while we're waiting. Well, do you know any, Ellie?
Trying to spot some. I think we've got a couple.
Go on, what do you think you've got?
All 25, so there's 25 in the picture.
Yeah.
Right, so obviously got Elf here.
Yeah.
Then we've got Home Alone over there.
Yeah, classic image.
Love Actually.
Oh yeah.
So it's three. Got three.
Yeah. I think they've decided the building in the back that's on fire, I think they've decided Die Hard is a Christmas film.
Yes.
I'm going to say that might be Die Hard.
Maybe this one might be Polar Express. I don't know.
It's a train.
And then people at home, if you want to put in the comments as well, if you can think. I don't want to give loads away.
I see Gremlins. I think that's a fairly straightforward one.
And The Grinch.
Yeah.
I could. So
who's the guy? Who's the guy at the bottom with the glasses in a pink? Well, it looks more like an Easter Bunny costume, which is the thing I'm confused by.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
It looks a bit like Ed Sheeran, but I don't think it is. Did he not do a Christmas film this year? Or have I made that up?
I don't know.
Might have made that up.
I see.
Is One Fairy Tale of New York? Is that a Christmas film?
That's a song.
That's a song.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Figured it out.
I see Chevy Chase. That's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And I see Muppets, so I'm assuming that's I don't know.
The Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh right, yeah. There we go.
And you've got Half a Christmas over there.
Oh right. I think we're doing quite well here.
You've got 10. Miracle on 34th Street.
Right. Oh yeah. Trading Places at the bottom with Eddie Murphy. I can see that.
It's 12.
And Ghostbusters, because I can actually just, in some ways you can see the eye, you might even know the film, but you just know that Ghostbusters in.
Ghostbusters isn't a Christmas film.
I mean, they're saying it is, because that's clearly the Ghostbusters riding the Statue of Liberty. And who's Jack Skellington?
Yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh yeah, there we go. So we've got quite a few. Got quite a few there.
Yeah. Okay. Bit more difficult. Oh, that one. Who's that one? That little dog. That's
Snoopy.
He's obviously got a Christmas film about him.
It does. That's it. You might know the characters, but you don't know what the film is.
Yeah.
Well, shall we maybe see the answers?
Yeah, I'll place them on now.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think we've got an answer slide.
Oh, is that Bad Santa?
Oh, you should be watching that.
We've got Scrooge is in the taxi.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think we got that one at all.
No, we didn't. No, well done.
I'll put them up all the answers.
Yeah, Scrooge, right?
Edward Scissorhands. I'm sure some of these aren't.
I think National Lampoon. It's the Santa Claus. I got that wrong. Home Alone, got that. Bad Santa. A Christmas Story was the
Oh, right.
One in the Easter Bunny. Brazil, never heard of that.
No.
It's a Wonderful Life, we didn't get that. I think we did alright though.
Yeah, I think we got quite.
And then the bottom one, Merry Christmas, comma, something. Still don't know the answer to that one. And we didn't get it at the time. It looks like a bloke's head.
Oh no, it's Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence.
Alright,
No,
we'll never have got that.
No, never seen that one.
Well, there we go. So that's 5 minutes or so in. So I think that might be enough time for people to have logged on, got themselves a drink, as well I've got here, and made themselves comfortable. And people can always join in when they're able to. So once again, thanks for joining us for this live stream. We're here for about an hour and a half, so we'll be finishing by 6 o'clock. And we've done this for the last couple of years. It's for those young people who are preparing to be confirmed this year. And this should be something that maybe goes alongside the meetings and the preparation that happens in your own parish or your deanery, which is like a group of parishes. So it doesn't replace that. It's kind of supplementary to it. It's kind of something that we do alongside it. So it isn't probably going to answer all the questions you might have. It's maybe just something maybe to help you along a little bit. So that's kind of why we're here. Now you might be wondering who on earth we are. So hello, my name is Father Simon. So I work here at Animate Youth Ministries in St Helens, which is where our lovely studio is based.
My name is Ellie, and I also work for Animate Youth Ministries.
And I think we have a few cameras, and I'm hoping on our other camera you can see the other person in the room.
Hello, I'm Lauren. So I'm just behind the scenes today, but I work with Animate as well.
So there's 3 of us in the room, all working at Animate, so we'll be helping with this session. But we will have a 4th person joining us later, and that's going to be our special guest. I think Lauren's going to introduce her in a moment or two. Well, I suppose just a reminder really of the why we are here. That confirmation is a great sacrament in the church, something that's available to those in year 8 and above. From January or so through till March, young people could fill in a form on a website called Liverpool Called. Those names and contact details have been sent to the parishes in which you live, and the deanery, which is like a group of parishes in areas around the diocese. And those parishes will either have been in touch with you or will be in touch with you soon about preparation to help you get confirmed in the next month, a couple of months, hopefully before summer in most cases. And what we like to do is just offer this hour and a half of just a few little additional things maybe to help the sacrament perhaps mean a bit more to you and to all of us. So there's going to be some input from us, opportunities for you to get involved in the chat, and our special guest as well. Do you want to reveal who our special guest is, Lauren?
Oh well, it's not even spoken yet.
Oh, I thought you might do it now.
Oh,
no.
Right. Yes, our special guest is. Well, go on, Ellie. You can say your little bit on this.
Well, yeah, we've got like a full packed schedule today. We're going to be thinking about, like Father Simon said, the sacrament of confirmation, and also like the Jubilee year as well, about how they can like coincide with each other, and how you can think about like the Jubilee year throughout that as well. And our special guest that we'll have later on, who'll be joining us a bit later on, is someone called Elizabeth Parsons, and she works for the Archdiocese of Liverpool. And now I'll hand over to Lauren, who can tell us a little bit more about who she is.
Yeah, because I think the PowerPoint on the screen, which you can see, maybe says the kind of more formal things which she's a part of. But kind of a little bit about her is she grew up in Liverpool, and she's always been a part of a local parish community. She has lovely family and friends she's very close to and she's supported by. She went to a local primary and then a local secondary before going to Liverpool University to study history. At that point, she thought, I'm going to become a teacher, so she stayed and she went on to Liverpool Hope. But not long after, realised that teaching might or wasn't actually her call in life, and decided to work for a pro-life charity called Life, and she stayed there for 14 years. Since then, she's been working back in our Archdiocese of Liverpool, and her current role is what you can see on screen. She says, I've always viewed my jobs as a vocation, a calling, something I was meant to do, and I'm so privileged to be involved in the work I'm in. My journey of faith has been an interesting one, and I can only look back and feel that God had a plan for me. And I suppose, you know, a little bit about this session. I think Father Simon's mentioned this and Ellie, but it's important that you watching also are able to maybe have your input. So maybe from something which I've said or something which you can see on screen, you might be thinking, I've got maybe a question I might want to ask when she does come on screen later on. So please feel free with any questions which you might have just to pop them into the chat, and we'll try and grill Liz when she gets here on what you were asking.
Yeah, we'll have time for grill the guest, or indeed grill the panel as well. So if you do have any burning questions, either things that come up during the time we have together now, or things you might just want to ask in general, and to me, Ellie or Lauren or Elizabeth when she turns up, then put those in the chat. Lauren will keep an eye on things and try and bring those out towards the end when we have our time for grill the panel or grill the guest. So before we do welcome Liz, though, we thought we'd just maybe offer a few thoughts ourselves to maybe set the scene, so we don't just dive straight into an interview. So maybe just a few things maybe to help us think and reflect a bit about the sacrament of confirmation. But really, rather than, we've done this for a few years now, these live stream, and we do just tend to focus solely on confirmation, and that does make sense, as this is the reason you will be online now. But this year, of course, it's a very special year.
Yes.
What year is it, Ellie?
The year of Jubilee.
It is a Jubilee year. If you're watching this, maybe you go to a Catholic school, or maybe you know about it already. We're in what's called a Jubilee year. They happen, how many years, Ellie?
Every 25 years.
Well done. This is putting Ellie on the spot. Every 25 years. So a big event, don't happen all that often. And Pope Francis, when he was still with us, God rest his soul, gave us a theme to think about in this particular year, and he asked us to think about being pilgrims of hope. So we thought, didn't we, Ellie, it might be interesting to combine the mashup of what confirmation means to us, but also what confirmation means within the context of this Jubilee year, and being a pilgrim of hope. Because I suppose in our mind there is an overlap in some ways between the two. Elizabeth referred to their vocation journey. We often think about life as a journey, so there's some kind of overlap there about being a pilgrim and being on pilgrimage. Confirmation with hope helps us on that journey. It gives us hope for ourselves, and we take hope to other people. So we thought we'd try and blend the two things together. I'll talk about confirmation and pilgrims of hope in a Jubilee year. I imagine maybe not everyone has thought too much about it, perhaps what a Jubilee year is. So I don't know. Have we got something to help us think about it to get us started?
Yes, so I've got a bit of a challenge to get us started and help us think about this idea of going on a journey. So I would like you to now imagine that you are a member of a space crew scheduled to meet another ship on the moon. However, due to mechanical difficulties, your ship was forced to land at a spot 200 miles away from the meeting point. During landing, much of the equipment aboard was damaged, and since survival depends on reaching the other ship, the most critical items available must be chosen for the 200-mile trip. Below, well, in a minute, we're going to show you a list of 10 items left undamaged after the landing, and it is up to you to put them in order of what is the most important for your crew to allow them to reach the meeting point. So these are the 10 items.
Right, so it isn't about surviving on the moon for a long time. It's you need to get across 200 miles of the moon
Yes.
to meet the other ship. That's the critical
Yes.
point here. So there's probably a couple of things to remember about that.
So a box of
Right.
matches, food, is that
50 feet of nylon
yeah.
roll,
two pistols, 200 pounds tanks of oxygen, star map, self-inflating life raft, magnetic compass, 20 litres of water, and a first aid kit. So if you'd like to get involved and put in the comments what you would say is like the most important to the least important.
And if that's too much typing, just maybe put in what you think is important and why, or why you think something might be of absolutely no value whatsoever. And we'll see. I think you do have the answers, which you'll unveil
Yes.
later, don't you, Ellie?
Yes.
And I believe the answers are official NASA answers.
Whoa.
So, if you disagree, take it up with Donald Trump. Don't disagree with us.
There you go.
But we thought we'd do this ourselves as well, even though we have got our answers written down. We thought it would be more fun for us to have a go as well. So, what do you think, Ellie? What do you think's important?
Ooh. So we need to try and get to the other side.
Yeah, 200 miles of moon.
Well, I'm definitely going to say the oxygen. You need oxygen to breathe.
You do, but I mean, I don't know how much 100 pounds is actually. I'm assuming it's heavy.
Yeah, it would be heavy to carry actually.
Lauren, have you got your phone handy? Can you Google how heavy 100 pounds is in kilograms or stone?
Yeah,
Please. This would have been more useful in a metric we understand, I think. But that sounds heavy, 100 pounds, to me.
It's 7.14 stone.
7 stone.
So
That's
it's like
quite heavy,
It
isn't
is
it?
quite
A
heavy.
child, adult person.
A child or an adult, so a human.
Yeah, a human
Right.
size.
Well, 7 stone's a bit more useful. I mean, carrying two like a couple like something in your eight might be on 7 stone. Maybe like two people watching this under your arms. I don't think what 200 mile with.
Well, we've got someone's written in first aid
Yeah.
for any injuries,
Well, yeah.
minor
That's a good
injuries.
I
point.
think that's a good point.
Because you've got to do a lot of work
Yeah.
to get to where you need to be.
See, we've done something like this before, like a team building thing. And so based on that, I'm going to say food isn't important. Oh, it's not that important because the aim is just to get 200 miles. They obviously need a bit of food, but I'm going to say other things are more important than the food because, just do the 200 miles before you starve. So it's going to take you a bit of time, so you're going to need some food, but I'm going to say other things are more important, is mine.
Maybe a compass. I don't know why it's magnet. Is it stick to you? So you don't
Well,
use
it's
it.
like sort of magnet, but for the magnetised north,
But you need to know the direction you're going in.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
And you say compass is important.
Yeah.
Why would you want the pistols?
The only reason I could think of what it would be no use is that I'm thinking of it more like a flare type thing, but that'd be no use on the moon.
No.
So I don't think.
And I don't think it would act as a flare.
So I don't. I
No,
know.
Unless
I
someone
don't
can
know
see
why.
a bullet from.
No, it would act as a. But that's the only reason I
Right.
could think. But I know it wouldn't act as a flare.
Yeah. A life raft again. I'm imagining more like a life raft you'd use at sea.
I was going to say, you'd have it floating and you'd just be thinking, well, it's going to float
So
on.
like, well, maybe you could
Like a
recreate.
boat.
Oh, I'm thinking, what's the guide up? So you could use it to
maybe.
I don't know. I don't think that would work. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say the most important is I'm gonna say water.
Okay.
Because we've not mentioned yet that, but water's always an important thing.
Especially if you're walking for miles and miles.
Yeah, and I think 20 litres, I think you're more likely able to carry that. It'd be heavy, but at least it's plausible. You could do it. So I'm going to say water's the most important. And I'm going to go bold. I'm going to go the least important is the food. I don't actually think that's right, but I feel I should just, put it out there.
Do you know, I've just realised, the 50 feet of nylon rope, what would you use that for? Because you need to go 200 miles.
Yeah, but it'll help you pull yourself, wouldn't it?
Yeah, what about if there's
no, what you're attaching
Exactly.
I don't think the moon's like level, so I mean if you're going down or up like cliffs or something maybe.
I just thought that you could use the live raft with the rope and put all your heavy stuff on there and pull it. But I don't think that's going to get you to where you need to be in the quickest time, to be honest.
Right. Well, shall we see what the answers are? I think Lauren's got them there. Lauren's got them on screen, so Lauren might know. Lauren will get the answers first. And I think, are you going to get your special paper
My
out,
special
Ellie?
sheet, yes.
Yeah. So there we go.
Official answers.
Right. Here it is.
So number.
It's on. I can see it as well. I was going to say this would be a surprise to me, but there we go.
Boxing matches, we didn't even touch on that.
Right.
It just says virtually worthless because there's no oxygen, so it can't
True.
even set on fire.
Yeah. Probably should have thought, well, even without the oxygen aspects, I probably would have wondered why boxing matches would be useful as well. But, yeah,
because it's not going to, like I said, no flare, can't use flares. I was wrong about the compass.
I can see, yeah.
Magnetic field on the moon is not polarised, so it's worthless.
Right.
I don't know. I don't even know.
Glad I'm not on the moon with you then.
Yes. 2 pistols means it's
self-propulsion. So you'd fire the pistol because there's no atmosphere. It would push you.
Oh.
So
that's quite clever, actually.
It is quite clever.
Go faster.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Fair enough. But I mean, not as important as the other stuff, obviously.
No. Presumably, it would only happen as many times you've got bullets as well.
Yeah. And if you've got a team, there's only 2, but you could hold on, I suppose.
It's a bit weird. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But yeah.
The self-inflating life raft.
Also propulsion then, so you let the CO2 out of the canister and push you right. I mean, they do make sense. 200 miles, so any little bit will help. You can see why they're useful.
First aid kit. I think someone mentioned that.
But obviously, as it says there in SpaceX, you can't use all of the first aids. That's why it's in the middle. But that's fair enough.
50 feet of nylon rope, useful for scaling cliffs. I think, is that what you mentioned, Lauren?
I didn't actually even contemplate that there might be cliffs on the moon, to be honest. So
I
could see it having some importance, but I didn't really know how.
The food, which you need to
I said it was going to be a lot lower, but
star map, so you are able to navigate and find, which I think is fair. Water, as we all said, water is very important, and then the tanks of oxygen. You need it to survive.
You need to survive, but because there's no gravity, then they're not going to be 7 stone. It'd be a lot lighter than. You see, we didn't really factor in the gravity. We didn't factor in the gravity of the situation.
Which probably was the most important thing to do.
I actually can't imagine something not weighing anything. I don't know why, but anyway. That's a story for another time, I suppose.
Well, I suppose people might be wondering, what on earth all this has got to do with either the Jubilee year or Pilgrims of Hope. But I suppose in our head, when we were thinking about it, it was all this idea about like equipment and kit that you need. That if you have the right equipment, as you had to do there with that game from NASA, if you have the right equipment and you know how to use it, the journey becomes a lot easier. If you don't understand how to use the equipment, or maybe you're given a lot of equipment to choose and you choose the wrong things to take with you, the journey becomes a lot more difficult and maybe even impossible. So, me and Elliot were a good example there. You know, me going, oh, well, you probably don't need food. I probably would have, in this case, starved, it would have appeared. Elliot would have taken a compass, and that would have been no use. She would have been going around in circles.
Literal circles.
Yeah. So if you have the right equipment, the journey becomes a lot easier. And I think that's true for life, obviously. You know, like we also say, life is a journey, so it's true for life. If we're equipped on the journey through life, it makes life a lot easier. And I think the Jubilee year tries to remind us of how we are equipped through our journey of life, and how our faith and the church and maybe the sacraments that the church offers us, they can equip us. And I think one of the things that the Jubilee has done really well this year is it's given us a logo for the year to look at. And the easy thing would just be to stick this on, you know, a poster or on some t-shirts or something. We have t-shirts with this logo on. But I think the logo really helps us understand a bit more about what it means to be equipped for a journey, to be a pilgrim, to be on this journey, and what the church offers us. So, again, maybe we'll kind of break it down, I think. But just out of interest, if you're watching this, you know, what basically, what do you see, or what do you think any of these things might mean? Just really briefly. And we actually do know a bit more about this one, because we can't really pretend we have absolutely no idea what we're looking at there. But that is the Jubilee. That is the Jubilee logo.
I think it's good to say that, like, when we first saw the logo, we didn't actually know, we just saw it as a logo.
Yeah.
We didn't see the different bits that add up. So maybe that might be a hint of the look at the different aspects.
There's different aspects to it. It doesn't necessarily need to be seen all as one thing.
Yeah.
And I think having it on this background of the road there, that's also kind of a bit useful in some ways, because it reminds us, you know, I think it's fairly obvious there's people there, you know, but they're supposed to be pilgrims. They're on some kind of journey on that road there. Do we have any comments, Lauren? No. Well, it's I think it's quite hard to say, like, what do you see? Shall we try and break it down then, and maybe we'll explain to people watching what this is about? So this is the artists or theologians, you know, people who came up with this idea. This is what the logo is about. This is what they're trying to explain to us, and what they were trying to help us understand a bit. So
I'm going to wipe it clean, wipe the logo clean, and just go back to basics. So you can see here just the people there, and they're all like following each other, and it summarises how we're all on this journey. Like Father Simon said, with the road in the background, it's more easy to see, but they're all following each other and all guided in the right way. And then if you add a bit of colour, boom! Add a bit of colour, you're able to see how everyone is actually different, and how we all have like our different gifts that we can add to the logo, and how we all have our individuality. But we're all individuals on this journey together, on this pilgrimage journey together as well.
So I think that's probably an important place to start, isn't it? Like, because we're told then that we're equipped for the journey, but we're not just on our own. We're not setting off on our own. It's interesting, there's 4 characters there. I don't think there's any particular meaning to 4, but it would have been easy just to have one person maybe, but whoever's done this has said, no, let's have a group of people, like a community. So we said we're on a journey together, and I think that's one thing we're equipped with. It reminds us we're not just on our own, and I think that's what the sacraments remind us of. Baptism baptised into a church community. Confirmation confirms us into that community. There are always going to be other people there to support us. Maybe someone at the front there leading us. and maybe we follow, maybe at times then we lead others and they follow us, but we're all journeying together in the same direction, supporting each other. So that's like a good sense of being equipped. But I suppose it isn't always as easy as just journeying together, because there is something else as well, which is the waves underneath. Because again, that's not just a stylistic choice to have a blue bit underneath the feet. That's supposed to symbolise waves. And as we know, waves can be dangerous. If you're out at sea somewhere, crossing the ocean, crossing the channel, and the boat starts going from side to side, we might start to get a little bit nervous or anxious, because all of a sudden things are taken out of our control. We can't control things anymore. The waves are there, and they're almost controlling us and controlling the boat that we're on. And I think the waves then are supposed to represent those difficulties we encounter in life. That there are times when we might feel nervous or anxious or worried, and maybe not through any of our own faults. Things happen around us, or people maybe even do things that are beyond our control, and all of a sudden, although we know we're part of a community, we know people are there to help us, we're still in times of difficulty. The waves representing this difficulty that we might be at. I suppose then it's fortunate we get something else to equip us in these times of difficulty.
Yeah, and I'm going to use the analogy of, like you said, the boat. You may have been on a boat before, and the symbolic thing on a boat is like an anchor. But many of you may not know, on a boat there's actually two anchors, and one of these anchors is called the anchor of hope. Because in these storms that like Father Simon was just on about, the troubles that we all have in life, there's always that anchor that we can fall back on. Just like a boat being lost in the middle of the sea, you might not have the anchor to support you, but you always have that anchor of hope to give you that little bit of a lifeline to help guide you on the right path. And that brings us on to the next part, where we all have this anchor in our lives. And with that anchor, even though when times are rocky, it gives us that hope, that moment to realise and take that stillness in, that even though we might be rocky, we do have that aspect of hope, which then leads on to the cross as well. And meaning like that anchor that we have in our lives, it leads up to the cross, because Christ is our salvation, of how He's always going to be there for us, through all the ups, through all the downs, He's always going to be there as well.
So I suppose that's the ultimate bit of kit for us. Like the NASA thing, we had to rank them in order, and it turned out the oxygen was number one. I suppose for us, like the ultimate bit of kit is that sense of our faith being there, and that's the thing that offers us hope in times of difficulty or trouble. Our faith is always there, the thing that we can cling to, just as those characters in the logo are clinging to something as they overcome the waves and the journey past the waves. They're clinging to the cross that is giving them hope, because they know there's something there that's going to help them and support them. And I quite like that image, the journey. We always encounter difficulties on our journey. We know that, especially as we get older. You're in year 8 watching this, maybe even older than that, we're watching a family. We know that difficulties come in our life. How do we know we can have hope for the future? How can we overcome those times of trouble? Well, our faith can be the thing that we can cling to and know that it's going to help us. So it's a really vital bit of kit and equipment. But it kind of links really well to say, well, the church offers us like this hope. How does it do that? Well, as it turns out, the sacrament of confirmation is a really good example of the faith, of what our faith does offer us. Because we're told in the sacrament of confirmation, we get this sense of help through things called the gifts of the Holy Spirit. We're not going to dwell too much on these here, and they are going to be up on the screen on the TV here. But if you did want to know more about these, we have some little bite-sized videos on our YouTube channel that we've done just as a team here. And we've had one of the deacons of the church, Deacon Paul Mannings, who's who's helped us explain what these gifts are. So if you're not sure, there's like 10 or 15 minute little clips just to help understand a bit more. So we're not going to spend too long talking about these, but as you can see, there are 7 gifts, and we're told that at confirmation, when we receive the sacrament of confirmation, we get these gifts. So again, it's equipment, it's kit that our faith, the church, gives us to help us on our journey. That when we might be unsure about which way to act or behave, we're given this gift of right judgment or counsel to make sure we're maybe making the right judgment. We might need to stand up for other people, ourselves, or our faith, in the gift of courage, for example. All these different gifts help us on our journey. They're like symbols, that cross of the Jubilee logo, the things that can help us as we pilgrim, as we're on our pilgrimage journey. So I don't know, maybe that makes sense for people watching how the Jubilee year and the Sacrament of Confirmation can all be linked together in some ways. But I don't know, what do you think, Ellie? Have we been speaking long enough?
Yeah. I think it's time to get our guest.
Special guest.
Our special guest, I think so.
Right. Are you going to go?
I'll go and grab her.
Come on, you are younger, you have younger legs.
Yes.
So Ellie's going to go and bring Elizabeth upstairs to where our studio area is. So, just a quick reminder, I suppose, that Elizabeth works for the Archdiocese, works in our diocesan offices in Liverpool. Not worked there all life though, as Lauren told us before. She originally trained as a teacher and then worked for a pro-life charity called Life, and then moved over to work for the Archdiocese more recently. And she's if you're watching this in year 8, the title probably doesn't mean a huge amount. Director of Pastoral Development, I'd be sat there going, I don't know what that means. That's fair enough. And even with the biography on screen behind you, behind me, in front of you, you still might not get exactly like how that works or where that fits in with things. But I suppose in some ways it's the easy way of understanding it is, like the sacrament of confirmation that we're thinking about, and other sacraments that you've been involved in to get to this point, sort of baptism and reconciliation, confession and Eucharist, like how we prepare for those and how we receive them in our church. That's like pastoral development. So it's so it is relevant to anyone watching this that Elizabeth sees. This is her kind of area that she would work in, about how we would try and help those who are preparing to receive the sacraments, to receive them in the best way that we can, and that they become life-giving and affirming. That it isn't just something that we maybe sit and watch a video about, or we go to a room and learn about, but it's something that we take with us for the rest of our life, and that helps us on that journey through our life. And as if by magic, Ellie and Elizabeth have appeared. So there we go. I've just been doing my best to try and explain what being the Director of Pastoral Development means, because
sorry I missed that.
we got some stuff from the website and from the internet. Trying to put it into context, into terms that maybe a year 8 might get. So I'm kind of hoping that we got there, and I'm sure if we didn't, the things that we will talk about now it will all become a bit more obvious. So
absolutely.
So welcome, first
Thank
of all.
you.
Welcome
Thanks
to
for having me.
Thanks for coming over. I'm sure at the end of a hard day's work, so
Yes.
trek all the way to St Helens. So we've just been talking about a bit of a mashup between the Jubilee year and the Sacrament of Confirmation. And we speak about how we're pilgrims of hope, and we're on a life journey as well. So confirmation that marks a point in life, and all this kind of different things. So I think this was maybe what we thought it might be helpful for anyone watching this, might want to think about or learn a little bit about. And we have said if people aren't hear anything, they can put it in the chat, and Lauren will do a grill the panel a bit later. We'll see. I don't know. Are you going to get us started, Ellie?
Yes. So the first question that I have is,
Okay.
what does being a pilgrim mean to you? It's a big question actually to start off.
Question, but I mean, I can. What a great theme for this year we've got. Yeah. Being a pilgrim for me, I suppose, it is about being on a journey, and I know that's probably the answer a lot of people would give, but it is a journey, and I think it's that faith journey. Whenever I go on a pilgrimage, I'm not expecting to be relaxed or taking it easy or being on a beach or anything like that. I'm expecting that I'm going to be busy, I'm going to be trying to see as much as I can. There might be times, hopefully be times for rest, just to have a bit of quiet, but the focus is on, I'm there to try to get to reach God somehow and allow Him to reach me. And so within that journey can come ups and downs, trials and tribulations, but such a feeling of joy at the end. And not because it's come to an end, but I remember explaining to a friend of mine, I went to World Youth Day, and it's the only one I've ever been to, and that was in Cologne. That was a number of years ago now. But when I came back, he said, so how was it? How was your trip? And I said, oh, it's absolutely amazing, but I'm worn out, but I feel really, I think the words I used was spiritually fulfilled, without being cheesy, but that's honestly how it felt.
I get that.
It was just, I'd done a lot, I'd thought a lot, I'd contemplated a lot about my own life, but really felt like I'd had a proper conversation with God in doing it. So
I think that's the best thing about pilgrimages though, isn't it? Like, even though you're always busy, like take Lords for example, like you're busy all the time pushing the pilgrims, being with like the young people and everything, but at the end of it, even though you're so tired, you have that moment to take a step back and to reflect on like where God is in your life, and like you said, like rejuvenated and like giving that extra bit that like spirituality needs topping up a little bit more, if that makes sense, in the cup. But no, I get that. And I think me and Father Simon was having a conversation before about how sometimes we can think about a pilgrimage, and we, like you said, about going on a journey as well. But obviously, like, so with this year being like Pilgrims of Hope, and the Pope asking us to think about how we can offer that hope and going on that journey, obviously it makes us think about how our life is a pilgrimage as well, and how we're able to go on that pilgrimage of life. That makes sort of sense as well. So no, I like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking when you mentioned about World Youth Day as well, because my first World Youth Day was the last Jubilee year in 2000 when I went to Rome for the pilgrimage then, and I really that's part of one of my vocation story in a sense, because it was I come from a town called Chorley, and really, to be brutally honest, I'm not all the parish is watching this, but at the time there weren't that many young people in that parish. I was going to, which didn't really affect me that much. It didn't affect me at all. Actually, it wasn't something I even thought about because it was just the parish I'd been brought up in, and I kind of just thought that was the church in a way. It was the building I went to on a Sunday, and these are the people who went to church, and I was one of them, and that was it. And then it was only going to Rome and meeting the group that travelled from Liverpool first of all, but then being in Rome with all these other millions and millions of other people from all around the world, that I realised the church wasn't what I thought it was, and it was something else, and it was a lot more vibrant, really, if being honest. And again, that's how I started to think about the church differently and my role in the church differently, and so on and so on. So I think, there's a lot, an awful lot of things about being a pilgrim. I suppose, for me, there's also that sense of being with other people and the encounter with other people. At times to be on your own, but the encounter helps you understand a bit more about yourself. If that makes sense.
Oh, I think that's so true. Funnily enough, with Cologne, I was at a point in my life, the World Youth Day I went on, I wasn't really practicing my faith very much at that point. I'd sort of, God and I were taking a break, and I still believe, but I really wasn't going to church, and I wasn't involving it in my life the way I should have or wanted to in the end. And it was only my parish priest said to my dad, "Oh, would your daughter be interested in going to Germany?" So that was the hook. It was like, "Do you want to go to Germany?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, who am I going with?" And he's like, "Well, a few people from the parish, you'll probably know them." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, good, I'm fine with that." And I really wasn't sure what I was expecting, never really heard of World Youth Day at that point, so did not know what I was letting myself in for. But as you say, the group that we went with, such a lovely group, and being able to have conversations with that group that you maybe don't always get to have with your daily interactions unless you've got a lot of friends who are of a similar background to you. It's that in itself was very fulfilling, but also helped me to work out what I really thought and felt, and that was the turning point for me. It wasn't like an overnight thing, it wasn't like a Damascus moment, but because I did come back feeling so spiritually enriched by it, it was something I joined a young adult group, I went back on Sundays with my mum and my family, and that was just, that was the hook back in, and I've not left it since, which has been wonderful.
I think, right, for anyone watching this, that might also be a good thing for them to think, for people to think about as well, because the preparation meeting is sacrament, we're talking about things like World Youth Day or Lourdes or things like that, but if you might be a bit too young to go on those, but the sacrament of confirmation of these preparation meetings, and there's a chance of encounter there, maybe seeing the church in a different way through those encounters, through the catechist, and then this could be the invitation. If we accept that invitation ourselves, it's always up to us. The invitation's always there.
Yeah.
And let's hope, as the theme tells us, that might be for something for young people who are watching this. To be a pilgrim, to be on that journey. This is an interesting point for them. Something for them.
Oh, it is. It's such. I still remember my confirmation preparation. I mean, there were a number of different sessions that we had. I know everywhere does it slightly differently. What I do remember, and what I thought was incredibly brave, but it was really helpful at the time, was there was a question and answer session where we could ask anything we wanted. So about your faith, what questions, what doubts, what fears do you have? Now's your chance. And we all took advantage of it. But I still remember how wonderfully those were answered. I remember some of the prayer times. We were in a garden in one of the churches, and there were little prayer stations set up where we could go and just have a sit. There were poems to read, there were songs to look at, and it was just a very different way of connecting. And it did feel like I was more responsible. Without, again, being cheesy, by the end of the confirmation process, it did feel like I was more in control of it. This was my faith, it's up to me now, so... And I do believe, and therefore I'm going to make a bit of an effort to keep it going.
I have just glanced over and seen Lauren writing. Have you got questions, Lauren? Or do you want to save them until later? What's the best thing to do?
Well, because this isn't directly for Elizabeth.
Right. Also, we do it later.
We can maybe do that later. And just a quick reminder that any questions, no matter how silly you might think they are, to an extent. Please feel free to write in the chat. That'd be great. But I think we do have another question for Elizabeth.
Yeah, well, I think because we've just to I suppose to move away a bit from like this actual confirmation thing, but we've been talking about hope a lot, and maybe just what might bring you hope, either in the church or in faith, or just like in life in general, because I think the two are kind of linked, but it doesn't always have to be. Not everything is about the church as well, I think, and so what offers hope to you?
I think there's a lovely quote that I think is from one of the Alpha courses, and it talks about the fact that when you are a Christian, when you are actively looking for your faith, it's amazing how many coincidences you find, and then if you close it down or if you block yourself off, you stop seeing them, but it doesn't stop them from being there. And I think when you do make time and you reflect and you look back, although I didn't see it at the time, and this is the point, I don't always see God acting, but I do on reflection think, do you know, I can see why I'm there, I can see why that didn't happen, or okay, I did pray for that, you didn't give me this, but it did work out this way, it's slightly different. And those coincidences, I think, give me hope. One of the biggest things that gives me a lot of hope is my niece, and she'll hate me talking about it, but seeing her grow up in her faith is also, for me, very joyful, very hopeful. She's asking similar questions that I was asking at that age, and she's now able to start to answer them, some of them, and we have the most interesting conversations, and seeing her faith develop, you know, in her own way, at her own pace, it just, that gives me hope, because we also are looking at the next generation of our church family to be involved and to start taking over, and I think, you know, if there are more people like her, I think we'll be doing well.
So I suppose is that I had a follow-up question then, was like, what in the church, what in like faith might bring you hope? So would it be fair to say like some like young people like that, for example, or?
Yeah, but also, I mean, there are some. It's amazing how you get different inspiration wherever you go. There are some lovely people in my parish who have worked solidly for the church in such a small way, where a lot of people maybe wouldn't have necessarily noticed them, but you see how much time, how much work they put in, and that's all born out of love. They're there because they want to serve, because they want to do what they can, either for the parish priest, for the parish, for the family, whatever it may be. And they give me hope, because after such a long time of devotion of doing it, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Seeing young people come up in the church, very hopeful, because again, gives me hope that in 40 years' time, it's, you know, going to have a vibrant community still ongoing. I love conversations with my colleagues about new ways of thinking about things, because it's amazing how much you can read something in the Bible, a piece of scripture that I might have heard 100 times already, but you read it and you look at it and you think, do you know what, I'm reading that in a different way, and I'm viewing it with different eyes and hearing it, and now there's some guidance there that was meant to be, so it's that communication with God that you might not hear his voice, like it's not like I've ever heard him talk to me back, but he does in that way.
Yeah, I think this is about one of the great things about the theme for the Jubilee year that Pope Francis gave us. I say this when we do day retreats. I use the word hope a lot, but I just say it without thinking. You know, hopefully this will be a nice day. I hope the weather stays nice for lunchtime so we can get outside. I hope this. I hope that. I haven't realised quite how much I use just the word. But then when you start to think about it and you think what you mean by that, it becomes such a powerful word and a powerful concept that without that, if you have no hope, then it would be a bleak world
awful.
and existence. Yeah.
It's like you've got nothing to look for. Well, not. It's weird, isn't it? The word hope, you can't really define what it means, but you can at the same time. You hope something's better, or you hope something that's good. It's very, very.
I think I heard someone compared it to the word wish. So like, I might wish I'll win the lottery. Do I actually believe that'll happen? No. Do I hope? There's more, when I hope for something, there's more of an actual possibility that I might get it. You know, it's within grasp, it may happen. You know, I hope the world can be better. I hope that our communities can be more peaceful, but I do that with a genuine expectation that it's not impossible. It could be.
Yeah.
If I'm saying, I wish things would be better, it sounds a bit more despairing. It's not quite as high up, you know. It's a good word, very good word.
Well, I think, like, for young people watching this now as well, I suppose that's something for them to think about, because I'm far too old to understand like the difficulties of being a year 8 or being at high school in this day and age now, but to know that there is hope there and that our faith offers us hope, I would hope is like a powerful thing for someone's thing, you know, because you can go, what is the point of confirmation? You know, why should I bother? What's it going to offer me? What's it going to give me? You know, if I make my first communion, it means I can go down the centre aisle and I get that little bit of white thing, and whatever, however you understand it, it's a thing that you can now do. With what's like confirmation doing then? Well, perhaps it's a thing that offers you the hope that you might need for your life, and I think that's be like I say, a bleak existence without that spark within you somewhere. I would think. I suppose that brings us back to confirmation, Ellie.
Does indeed. You did touch on it a little bit, talking about your confirmation. But what I want to know is, did confirmation make a difference in your life?
Oh, yeah, it did. It's again, I'm trying to think back a few years ago now. Yeah, what was interesting around that time for me was I think one of the biggest choices I remember making was who would be my sponsor, because I was racking my brains, didn't want to pick my godparents because they're my godparents, and I thought maybe someone different for my sponsor, but couldn't quite. I was struggling to narrow it down, and in the end I chose my friend's mum who lived nearby, and I asked her if she would do it, and she was really, really thrilled to have been asked, and it was, you think, oh, it's not that big a deal, and she thought, no, it is, and thank you, and it's really nice. And I do just remember on the day itself, so we were all sat together and she was sat with our family too, and when you go up and when you see the bishop, I was nervous. I was really nervous. I forgot what name I picked, and I wasn't sure what to say, but he was lovely. It was, I think it was Archbishop Patrick Kelly, and he was really, really nice. And I just remember when a hand, when you put your hand on the person's shoulder as the sponsor, I remember that feeling, and I remember suddenly realising how important it was. It wasn't just going through the motion. I wasn't just there because it was time for me to make my confirmation. It genuinely, it really did feel like it was me saying, right, I'm old enough now, I can do this. I want to acknowledge that I want to continue learning about my faith. And it did, I certainly for a time afterwards, I really tried to put a routine in. I kept prayers going and things like that. It's only when I went to uni that it got a bit more of a challenge, but God has a way of bringing you back, as I said before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do remember my confirmation. I do remember feeling something is a bit different now, and trying to take that responsibility forward myself that way.
I think, so just, could be people watching this are in the same position about sponsor. I suppose that's what I was going to ask about. Because, some people are probably watching this going, some people are watching this going, I don't really know what you mean by sponsor, what's the list you're talking about. But there might be other people going, I'm in the same position, I don't know who to ask. So, just what were you kind of looking for? Maybe you could give anyone any hints and tips from your own point of view. Was there any job description of criteria that you were looking for? I don't know. There might not have been. It might just have been just a feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it sounds very selfish to say it like this, but I think I was looking for someone who I knew prayed, because I was at a point of still learning about my faith, and I thought, could have the odd conversation and talk a little bit about, and she's someone I was in contact with most days, so I was interested in finding someone who practiced, not someone who may still be part of the Catholic family, but maybe struggle to practice themselves, because I knew I needed to learn from somebody that way. So that was part of my criteria, and she went to Mass regularly. Like I say, I knew her through my friend. I knew she was that she had a good faith, that she nurtured herself. So that was something I was looking for. Also someone nice. I know it sounds obvious, but someone nice, someone you could talk to and ask a question of, because that's part of why a sponsor's there. So it could be family, it could be someone who's a family friend, it could be someone in your church community who or you've interacted with, who you think would keep you in their prayers and would want to pray for your welfare that way.
Yeah, I think it's good, because I think sometimes it sometimes gets overlooked a little bit. The sponsor, it sometimes can just be a name you put down. There might be good reasons for that at times, but to give it a bit more thought, perhaps,
Yeah.
of what we want from this person or what we're looking for. It might be something, people watching this, or even families are watching this together. So, let's give a bit more thought to this. Can you remember who you had, Ellie?
Yes, I was young. I was in year 5 when I made my confirmation. So, not that I overlooked it, but like it was all a bit like a bit of a blur. Young.
You could probably really pick.
Yeah, so it was more my mum guiding me on teaching me what confirmation was, instead of me like gaining all that information of the way. So my mum was like, we need, like, you have that criteria type of thing. So I ended up picking my great uncle, so family member, but he's a very much practicing Catholic, and he still goes to church every week, and we go sit next to him in the bench, and we like pray together. So it's still nice. It's got the connection still there with my sponsor as well. So yeah.
Can you remember who you had, Lauren?
Yeah, mine was my Uncle Johnny, who sadly isn't no longer here, but he lived round the corner, and had a very strong Catholic life, and lived a strong Catholic life, and was a good role model for me to dip away from maybe my parents for a while and kind of complain about them to him, and then for him to kind of guide me back on track again. So yeah, that's my uncle. So.
I suppose the other thing about like confirmation, we're talking about like why you choose a sponsor. The other thing people can choose, of course, which again, I imagine this one, it seems to me my anecdotal experience is this one that is given more thought, is the confirmation name.
So it's the thing that links it to I think it's most known thing about confirmation.
It is, yeah.
Choose a saint to look up to.
Yeah.
I do like the.
Are you willing to share, divulge who you went with?
I am, but it doesn't sound that imaginative is the only thing.
It can't be any less imaginative than mine. when you call Simon and I didn't get to choose, my mum and dad chose mine, but I got Peter. I mean, that is the least imaginative, but at least it's easy.
I'm not far off. I chose Mary.
Right.
But I chose it partly because my great aunt was called my Auntie Mary, so it was partly in memory of her, and also just trying to get to know Our Lady just a bit more. So yeah, that was mine.
That's a nice thing, isn't it?
Yours is Mary as well, isn't it, Lauren?
Yeah, I kind of, for the wrong reasons, because it was an easy pick, and I suppose maybe if you're watching this. I remember at the time I didn't really quite know anyone, so I thought, well, Mary's probably one of the greatest women you could possibly want to be. But I suppose if I look back now, I wish maybe I had spent a bit more time looking at like other saints and their lives, because now I actually have my name changed specifically to have a blessed in my name, because I made the mistake in confirmation not picking the right one. So it just goes to show, you might have to sit down and maybe think about who you want to kind of have beside you, close to you.
It's an important thing, I think. We also like St Helens. When I was watching this St Helens dinner, you've had like an online form, and we don't just ask for the name, but the reason why you've got the name. It isn't a test. We don't say, you can't actually have the names, you can't put what you want. But it is interesting to see the reasons. And I know, then we give that to the bishop when he does the confirmation. And I know sometimes he'll say, so you like Saint X and Saint Y, and can have a little chat. And it is nice for giving it a bit of thought, and you can just see you're able to write a couple of lines about it at least. So again, hopefully it's something to think about. If anyone's watching this, is sponsoring your patron saint, your saint's name, maybe to think about for confirmation.
Another thing is, a couple of years ago we had Bishop Tom Nayland come and do an interview, and he said there are some funny saints' names, so a challenge maybe for the year 8s is to try and find like a peculiar one, so when he does come and confirm you, he can ask you some more interesting questions about that one.
Yeah.
That was a fun conversation to have.
I think because funnily enough, it was only when I became an adult more I found out a bit more about some of the saints, and And there are some incredible, very young saints as well.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 to be canonised this year, got Blessed Carlo Acutis and Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. They're wonderful, you know, to be learning about. And I wish I think I'd done a bit more research at the time, but I certainly have no regret. I mean, you know, Our Lady is
Well,
absolutely wonderful, so recommend that as well.
we do one of our activities on day retreats is we have a game of top trumps. It's like famous people and saints in there as well. And one of the reasons we do it is because we say like everyone can beat everyone else.
Right.
You know, it's our own gifts and talents. But I feel like if you've got Our Lady in there, she's going to be pretty much unbeatable.
Yeah.
You know, I can't. There's not many stats she's going to be lacking in. So she's like the cheat code of top trumps. So I think it's been good to learn a little bit about confirmation. Lauren might have a few questions. Maybe just before we go to that. Obviously, this is for like year 8 or around that age. Anyway, for confirmation. Just thought. I don't know if there's any kind of what would you say to a young person, like kind of lasting message? I don't know, maybe putting you on the spot, so it might be quite hard to articulate anything immediately off the top of your head. But you know, I suppose if a young person comes up to you and says, you know, I don't think I can be a pilgrim of hope. You know, I'm doing this confirmation thing. I don't really know what that will mean. Where's it going to take me? How on earth can I be a pilgrim of hope? Sure, that is somebody else's job. You know, I'm only 12 or whatever age I am. You know, I can't possibly live out this life, you know, I've got to pick the saint's name, that's a saint, I can't be anything like that person, and they're just not quite sure that you know, how this is going to affect them, what they can be. I don't know, it might be a difficult question, but is there anything you might say to someone?
Yeah, I think, personally, I think, I mentioned before about the concept of a journey of faith. And I think as long as you're moving forward, it doesn't matter how far you're moving and how fast you're going. It's that constant choosing of, I want to know God and I want God to know me. And like I said before, there have been times in my life where I decided, no, not right now, not at this moment. But it's one of the reasons I always love that picture of Jesus knocking at the door and you've got the handles on the inside. He can't open it for you, but you can open it to let him in. And it reminded me very much of, you know, when you're younger and you're a child and like I'd fallen out, maybe had an argument with my sister or something and stormed up to my room and closed the door, and I'd have my mum knocking on the door and she's like, are you alright in there? And you're like, no, I'm fine, go away. And she's like, your dinner's ready, love. And I'm like, no, I'll come later. And she's like, okay, but do you want a hug? No. And I feel like that's Jesus all the time. Like it's if we're not opening the door, then he's still there waiting, and he no matter how long it takes for you to think about reopening the door. But I do think the trick is being open to the journey. I've said this a few times as well, like when you talk about, well, I never win the lottery. Okay, but do you buy a ticket? Probably not. It's, okay, well, I don't really feel like I've got much faith. Okay, but do you ever explore it? Do you ever ask the question? Do you ever go and read anything about it? And I think you can be as young as you want to be able to be asking questions about God, and it's in the asking that eventually you'll find it. I genuinely believe you'll find it if you're looking. So even though you might not feel it right now, and sometimes now isn't the right time for you to access it or to believe it and feel it, but doesn't mean that time won't come at some stage.
I think it's an important message to kind of end our interview, whatever you want to call it, bit.
Yeah,
so thank you. Well, they were the things me and Elliot thought might be, we were interested in knowing, but I know what Lauren said, if you've just got 5 minutes or so, maybe, see what the people have been asking Lauren. What have we got?
Well, I'll say the first one. We're going back to the gifts of the Holy Spirit. So,
right.
So
okay.
I'll put them back up.
Right.
Just for this moment in time. But somebody was asking maybe like, how do you use like the gift of piety? Well, basically, what does it help with in your life? And actually, weirdly, I think what you've just said at the end about asking questions and exploring, is somewhat a little bit to do with maybe what piety is in some sense. It's finding comfort and finding God. But I thought I'd pass it over maybe to one of you three if you had anything to say. I'll just put that slide back up.
Well, no, I don't know if it's on our work. Yeah, it is on our. So I was going to say it isn't a word we use very often. It isn't a word I'd use. You know, I'd say could say someone's pious and there's piety, but I would very rarely use it outside of this setting. Talking about confirmation, to be honest. So these are they're not like our definitions, but we've kind of cobbled them together from various different sources to try and make them a bit more easier to understand, I think. And I think for us it was that idea of respect a bit, that piety is sometimes about, you know, prayer. The more obvious thing, if someone's pious, you'd say they're praying a lot. But I suppose they would do that because they want a relationship with God and they respect God and that's it. But also about God's creation, I suppose, as well, because there's no point spending every minute of every day doing the rosary and then walking outside and punching someone in the face and dropping litter in a beautiful forest, and that to me makes absolutely no sense. So I don't see how that person could be described as pious just by saying the prayers. Surely piety is about the relationship with God, which includes then seeing other people as the image and likeness of God, so how we treat other people, and recognising God's creation around us and caring for that creation, just as much as it might do that one-to-one relationship with God that we get through prayer. That's it. So I think that's why we put respect there. I don't know if that makes sense or it makes sense too.
I like the word respect. I like the word honouring as well. Just, you know, honouring God and honouring his creation, but honouring the gifts he gives us as well. It's, you know, I think not in a, it's not shouting it from the rooftops, oh, I'm so holy, I'm so pious, look at how I'm kneeling and sitting and doing all of these things. It is about doing things gently and quietly, but within that, that's showing respect for God and honouring what he's asked us to do. So yeah, that's how I would say that gift is used. It's about, it would bring you closer to God in that way, but it's just respecting who he is and the role he plays in your life.
Yeah, I think broadening beyond that quite narrow idea of piety, you know, I think that's probably the key bit of maybe understanding it and perhaps how it works, perhaps. I don't know if that helps whoever's put that in, Lauren.
Yeah, I think so. I think when you were mentioning it then, especially the end bit, I suppose like I would describe piety a little bit of how you answered the question beforehand about kind of the hope within the church of the people who constantly maybe worked behind the scenes and done their little bit continuously and might never be recognised for it, but it's not to impress the people, it's to impress, if you could say, to impress God. And I think there's a lot of people in this world who do a lot of good, but won't, you know, be maybe on social media going, look, I've just helped this homeless man, and like thumbs up, and unfortunately there are people in the world who perhaps might do stuff for maybe the public. I suppose it's more kind of, from what Father Simon said there, it's more actually that relationship with God. It don't really matter that I might not have been thanked for that, or you would have been nice, but I know God knows, and that's what's important.
You just reminded me, then you said people do things behind the scenes. I think just reminded me, I think it's used in scripture to describe Simeon in the candle, you know, Candlemas time, you know, when I think it's Simeon, or is it both of them? I don't know. It's used there. They're described as a pious couple, or a pious man, or a pious woman. But I think that it's because he said they spend the time in the temple, but presumably they're doing that quite quietly, because they're not. It doesn't give you the sense that they're well known for doing this. You could just imagine this fairly elderly couple just going about the stuff. But just remind me when you said it, I'm sure that's the word that's used. It's used there.
Yeah, and I suppose then, I think we've talked enough, I think, about piety.
Yeah.
So,
That's as much as we can offer. If you wanted more than that, I'm sorry, we can't give you more.
But I had a question for you three, and based on actually the gifts of the Spirit, I hope you don't mind. It's only because someone put in the question, I thought, oh yeah, that actually. I suppose also for you, Elizabeth, because I was quite interested to know if there was any gift on there which you felt, wow, thank goodness I've been given that, because I could see a time when maybe I needed that and was lacking, and now I see a time where I'm thinking, actually, that's the Holy Spirit there working through me. And it's a bit of a hard question because I've been looking, and I think there is stuff which, you know, I might say about it, but is there maybe a particular gift where you kind of think that this can only be done because God's here with me, or the Spirit's here with me? It's my question.
Well, because that's a tricky question. While she was thinking, and you knew what you were asking, Lauren, what was your response to your own question to give Elizabeth a bit of thinking time?
I think because I'm older, I was thinking there was nothing right then and there where I got confirmed and thought, right, I am now courageous, now I am now this. And I suppose those things, you know, the gifts were given to me, but in some way I kind of, a little bit like what we were talking about before, I needed to know how to use them correctly and in the right way. A little bit of like talking about Pilgrims of Hope, and you know, we've got the logo and we're thinking about bringing hope. What do we take with us? And I think over time I can see certain elements of where that's only got better and not worse. And I think like one of those things is like the knowledge, really, like from getting older, maybe getting a bit more mature as well. I can kind of understand a lot more about God and about faith, and that's really grown over time. And I can imagine there might be people here watching going, you know, I've got so many questions about where God is and what's happening in the world and all of this, and they're like really good to have, and that's really important. But I kind of understand the things which I can't answer don't bother me as much now, because I know that at the end of the day, God's God, kind of thing. And for a long time, I'd get angry about stuff and think, well, why has that happened? Because God is this, right? And it kind of maybe tied me down a little bit as an individual who I was. So I suppose actually it's really understanding who God is and maybe what He can offer. You don't get all the answers you might want, but I think that gift's definitely been given. So yeah, I hope I've given you enough time. just rambling on. So yeah.
Okay, well, I think for me there are two that maybe go hand in hand. So I've mentioned previously about feeling called to something, but that's not. I don't say that with any grand thing. You know, I genuinely believe God has a plan for all of us. I think one of the ways I mentioned about looking back. Funnily enough, for this job that when I started working for the Archdiocese, I didn't see this job advertised. I saw a job for a different cathedral advertised, didn't know it was a different cathedral, looked at the Liverpool Archdiocese website and saw my job advertised and thought it looked slightly different, but didn't really put two and two together. And then I would have only seen this advert because I saw the other one first, which there's a nice coincidence that I'm thinking, okay, that's fine. When I started this job, it was actually literally a year ago today.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was the 1st of May. It was St. Joseph the Workers' Day, and funnily enough, that's the St. Joseph is the one I have on my my main medal there. So believe he has played a helpful hand in my life going through, and funnily enough, I start the job on St. Joseph's the Workers' Day. But I do think within that, like trusting that there's a plan and feeling there's a plan, that can come and go if you're feeling a bit like life is hard or challenges come up. And so the fortitude to keep remembering about, okay, if I sit and think about this now, God loves me because I have this. God loves me because of that. I'm glad I've got this. I'm grateful for that. But that takes energy to remind yourself to do that, and that's not always easy. And so, yeah, I'd say those two, for me, have kept my faith going, my job going, and kept me going on that journey of faith for me.
Awesome. I think bringing up St. Joseph on his feast day, that seems like a nice and a reminder of like the role, you know, the saints and our faith can play in our life. Just seems like maybe a nice way to bookend it all. And we started talking about all of that, and that seems like a nice way to kind of bring it all together really. That remind that constant God of faith, like constantly there. Sometimes we don't realise where it's guiding us, but just being there, sometimes allowing us to live the life that God wants us to live and be the person that He knows us to be. And I hope that might be something that comes across through this for anyone who's watching this in year 8. Think about the sacrament of confirmation, maybe how it's going to help you become the person that God is calling you to be. And maybe just as a final reminder of God guiding us and protecting us and perhaps showing us the way that we should live our life, it's perhaps right that we just end our time with a brief time of prayer. If you're at home and it's not too difficult, you might just want to join in our final prayer. I think you are leading it for us, aren't you?
So start in the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Spirit of God, grant me the gift of wisdom to see the world through your eyes, the gift of counsel to make difficult decisions, the gift of knowledge and understanding to use my mind to know you and to love you, the gift of fortitude to have the courage to live in faith despite difficulties and disappointments, the gift of piety to be able to express my special love and commitment to you, and the right kind of awesome fear that makes me pause to wonder and revere God's love. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So just once again, thanks to Elizabeth for finding time to come and join us. Hope this time we've had together online has been useful for those who are watching us. We're not back next week, we're back in 2 weeks, so that's on the 15th with one of the deacons of the church, Deacon Paul Rooney, who also works at the Liverpool Hope in their science department, like the geography department. So it might be interesting, any questions on that relationship between science and faith that some people find quite interesting, how they can coexist and what it means to be a scientist but also a deacon within the church. So we'll hear what Deacon Paul has to say about all of that when he's here. Well, until then, hope you have a nice time at school if you're there, and enjoy the sun while it's still out, and hope you enjoy your confirmation preparation when it starts, and we might see you again in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you very much, everyone.